This is a familiar face within any true crime community and, well, anywhere else for that matter. Pictured here is Gypsy Rose. On June the 14th, 2015, she would be involved in the brutal murder of her mother, Dee Blanchard. Very recently, I'd come across the crime scene pictures that were taken of Dee Blanchard's body. I thought we'd have a look at those crime scene photos today and see what Gypsy Rose did to Dee. But before we get into any of that, we need to talk about why this happened. 48-year-old Dee Blanchard was found dead in her bedroom 5 days after she was stabbed and murdered in a murder that her own daughter, Gypsy Rose, was involved in. Was this a cold-blooded killing or something else? Well, this case is particularly interesting, given that it wasn't exactly a cold-blooded murder. You see, Dee had forced Gypsy to pretend that she was ill. She'd force her to pretend to have severe physical and mental disabilities. The main reason being for financial gain. In other words, she was abusing her and using her for profit. When Gypsy was just 3 years old, Dee would take her to the hospital quite regularly, as Dee had claimed that she had sleep apnea. However, no evidence of this was ever found. Gypsy claimed that when she was 5 years old, she had taken a bath with Dee and her grandfather. At 8, Gypsy would have a small motorcycle accident in which she would suffer from a small abrasion on her knee. Dee would of course take this to another level and make Gypsy sit in a wheelchair, claiming that it was worse than what it actually was. At this same age, Dee would claim that Gypsy also had leukemia and muscular dystrophy, requiring her to use a wheelchair and a feeding tube. A list of medical conditions would be claimed by Dee. Gypsy Rose would ultimately end up with seizures, asthma, and hearing and visual impairments. This also affected Gypsy's nightly routine, as she was made to sleep with the help of a breathing machine. She was also put through several surgeries, including eye procedures and salivary gland removals. Her teeth were also pulled out, more than likely due to rotting from the medication that she was on. She'd also attend the Special Olympics, becoming the queen of a child-oriented parade, describing herself as an animal lover with 4 cats, and describing her creepy grandfather as her best friend. It's possible that Gypsy was pulled out of school as early as kindergarten to be homeschooled by her mother Dee, as she was supposedly so ill. In 2008 they would move to Missouri, in which the house that they would move to would be built by a charity called Habitat for Humanity. The house would be painted pink and a wheelchair ramp would be installed. Dee and Gypsy would also be treated to trips like concerts and Disney World, with Dee loving the attention and the freebies even more. The truth of the matter was that Gypsy never had any of these conditions, nor did she ever require any medical attention. She could walk perfectly fine, never needed a feeding tube, and didn't have cancer. She was only bald because Dee needed to make her fantasies seem as real as possible, Therefore, her head was shaved, which was made worse by the fact that, on the outside, DeeDee seemed to be a nice, genuine, down-to-earth person. Therefore, she was easily manipulative. Although, when questions were asked by concerned friends and family, DeeDee would simply run away, carting Gypsy off with her to her next location. At age 14, Gypsy went to see a doctor. This doctor believed that Gypsy was the victim of a disease called Munchausen disease. This is the disease that made DeeDee do the things that she did to her. It's basically a disease that makes people fake other people's medical things for profit and whatnot, and they can't help it. As the years went by, Gypsy would become less easy to control. DeeDee would frantically try to make Gypsy look even younger than she was, even going as far as changing the birth date on her birth certificate so that DeeDee wouldn't lose all of these benefits that she was given, benefits that she'd managed to hold on to for many, many years. In 2011, age 19, Gypsy was of course an adult at this time. She would run away with a man that she'd met at a science convention. However, DeeDee would track them down, ultimately convincing the man that Gypsy wasn't 19 and was in fact just a minor, prompting him to leave her. DeeDee would smash her computer, restrain Gypsy to her bed, and occasionally hit her or deny her food. Eventually, Gypsy would manage to get back onto the internet, including herself onto a Christian dating website. It's here she would meet a man by the name of Nicholas Gojon. At this point, Gypsy was desperate to escape her mother's grasp. So desperate that she would ask Nicholas to kill her mother so that the two could be together. In June 2015, it happened. Nicholas came over and stabbed DeeDee in her bedroom multiple times while Gypsy hid in the bathroom, hands over her ears. The two would return to Nicholas's house where they would be apprehended by the police. It was obvious that Gypsy wanted her mother's body to be discovered, as she had written twice on Facebook, quoting, "That bitch is dead," and found she was, which now leads us to our crime scene photographs. Until now, Gypsy basically had nobody that she could trust. Now you do tend to wonder why Gypsy never actually exposed her mother, but the fact of the matter is she was so brainwashed that she seemed to think that nobody would ever believe her. She would be given a 10-year sentence and released in just 8 years in 2023. So, we're all caught up now. Let's have a look at the crime scene photographs, or rather, the things that I can show. The details are of course very grisly. In the photographs taken within the bedroom, we can see on the bed DeeDee's body, duvet over her, surrounded by blood. It's apparent that there's no blood surrounding the room, and is of course just in one general area, DeeDee's body and the top half of the bed. It's apparent that there are many stab wounds, including one massive stab wound around her neck, an injury that was more than likely the cause of her death. Evidence shows that she was nude below the belt. There's also a variety of pictures from outside of the property, however I'm not going to show those as YouTube may not like that. Now I know I've shown pictures of houses before and that could all change and this could all be said for nothing, but I've realised how invasive that really is. However, what I can show are pictures from inside of the house. It's apparent that after the murder, there was absolutely no attempt at moving the body, which just goes to prove Gypsy's mindset of her wanting the police to find her mother's body even further. In recent interviews, Gypsy would claim that she isn't proud of murdering the woman who held her back from the world for years, and instead celebrates Mother's Day in honour of her, because after all, DeeDee was still her mother. In conclusion, the case was a desperate attempt for an escape that cost Gypsy 8 years of her life.